Welcome back to the Flying with the Flock podcast, the best place to get all of your Eagles and other NFL related news. I'm your host, Matt, and we have made it, ladies and gentlemen. Week 1 starts tomorrow with the Eagles kicking off the NFL season against the Dallas Cowboys on Thursday Night Football at 8:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, what does that mean? We have a lot of stuff to catch up on. This episode we're going to go through the rest of the NFC and AFC records that I haven't done, that being both the NFC and AFC East records. We are going to go over some season predictions that I have, like who's going to be the MVP, who's going to be Defensive Player of the Year, so on and so forth. We have a lot of news that we got to cover. Obviously, we got to talk about the elephant in the room, which we'll get to in a couple of seconds here. And we'll also do my weekly picks are back as well. So, before we get started, if you all could leave a like and subscribe down below, that would be much appreciated. But without a further ado, let's jump right into it. So, let's talk about the giant elephant in the room, or the giant Micah Parsons in Wisconsin. So, I had even said, and if you go back and look at some of the episodes, that I didn't think that Micah Parsons would get traded. A lot of the times, and we saw it with Scary Terry and Trey Hendrickson, that most of the times when players request a trade and then hold out throughout all of training camp for a new contract, normally the team bends and signs. Well, these teams are not the Dallas Cowboys. And looking at it now, it's 10 times funnier. So, let's get into it. What's been the timeline up to this point? Back in, I want to say it was like April or May, there were reports that Jerry and Micah had met one-on-one and had discussed contract details for Micah's new deal that he would be signing, most likely over this offseason or before training camp had kicked off. But by the time training camp rolled around, there was no new deal on the table. Micah Parsons was holding out of training camp until there was a new deal, and by August 1st, he had requested a trade from the team. So, in a span of 3 months or so, Micah Parsons had went from having discussions with contract discussions with Jerry to basically holding out and requesting a trade from the team. So that was August 1st. Through all that, there were tiny jabs back and forth between Micah and Jerry, and obviously two big egos are going at it. Do I believe that Micah is an amazing player and he deserves to get paid the contract that he got? Yes. But at the same time, he can be a little bit of a locker room cancer, I've heard, through the grapevine. And ultimately, it's interesting to me that the Cowboys and Jerry's ego got in front of this trade. Micah said, talk to my agent if we have a deal. Jerry thought they already had a deal, so he didn't have to talk to his agent, which is technically against the NFL rules, but we covered that last episode. So Jerry went on like a press tour like a week before this. He went on the Stephen A. Smith podcast. He went on Michael Irving's podcast. He went to anybody that is relatively an ally to Jerry Jones, whether it's behind the scenes or out in the open. And he went to them, told them the situation, and all of them told him, just sign him. It does not matter. And even people like Michael Irvin said that it was more likely that Micah would be signed by the start of week 1. Me personally, I was hoping that he was going to hold out past week 1. They would realize how much they needed him on the defense, and then he would sign like week 2 or week 3. What ended up happening was he got traded to the Green Bay Packers for 2 first-round picks and Kenny Clark, a 29-year-old defensive tackle, is a good guy, a good football player, but overall, you just traded a 26-year-old generational talent on the defensive line for a 29-year-old aging veteran on the defensive line. That's basically like the opposite of what we did. That's if we traded away. That's the opposite of what we did with like Fletcher Cox and Jalen Carter. That's if we sent Jalen Carter away and brought back Fletcher Cox. That's not going to help you at all. As much as I love Fletcher Cox. But yeah. So what was more mind-boggling to me was that the trade was announced around like 3 to 5 hours after rumors had come out and that official news had come out that Jerry was open to listening to trade packages for Micah. So Jerry didn't waste any time. And a day before, there was a lot of smoke that the Packers put a trade package on the table for Micah Parsons. Obviously, if you look back at the past few episodes, I said that it was highly likely that the Packers would be one of the teams in the Micah Parsons sweepstakes. It also said teams like the Patriots, who said it wasn't the right time for them, and also teams like the Lions, who haven't even commented on the entire situation. But yes, what surprised me was that Jerry didn't wait for more packages to roll in, and I'm surprised he didn't ask for 3 first-round picks. He only asked for 2 and 1 defensive starter. My personal opinion, Micah is worth at least 3 first-round picks and 1 defensive starter, or 2 first-round picks and 2 defensive starters. And that's bottom line. And obviously, it seems like Jerry really wasn't ready to work the other teams a little bit for more compensation at this point, and he just needed the headache out of his building. So it seemed like he just panicked and traded Micah away. And he also had a small press tour after the fact, and he more tried to compare this to the Herschel Walker trade. Now, if you don't know football that well, that's quite all right. So let me tell you what the Herschel Walker trade did, and then I'll compare it. Where is it? So yeah, Micah is a star on the defense, right? And Herschel Walker, when Jerry bought the team back in 1990, back when he bought the team in 1990 or 1989, somewhere back there, Herschel Walker was a top-tier running back for the Cowboys. Well, Jerry traded that away. And this is what the Cowboys received for Herschel Walker: a 3rd-round pick, a 5th-round pick, a 10th-round pick, and another 3rd-round pick. The Cowboys received 2 defensive starters, 2 backup defensive players, a 1st-round pick, another 1st-round pick, 1 1st-round pick, 2 1st-round picks, 3 1st-round picks, 2 2nd-round picks, or 3 2nd-round picks, 1 3rd-round pick, and 1 6th-round pick. The Micah Parsons trade, they got 2 1st-round picks and Kenny Clark. So you can see where the difference is that the Cowboys back then gave up an aging running back that they kind of predicted well that would ultimately fall off the wagon sooner rather than later. Compared to the Cowboys now, where they're trading away a player that is only coming into the prime now for an aging defensive tackle, declining in his numbers, especially in run defense, which is what they were looking for, according to Jerry, and then only got 2 first-round picks out of it, 1 in this upcoming draft and 1 in the following year. And the major difference, I know I just broke it down, like how many picks they got compared, but the difference is what you do with those picks. And what the Cowboys did with some of the first round picks that they had in the 1990 draft, 1991, and 1992 draft is that they took Troy Aikman, who was their franchise quarterback for over a decade. They took, I believe, Emmitt Smith. They took Emmitt Smith as well. And I believe they also later took Michael Irving. And they also took they took Michael Irving a little bit before that, so my apologies. But they really set up their dynasty with bringing in pieces like Troy Aikman and Emmitt Smith as well on the offense. So it ultimately jump-started a dynasty. For as much as people call it a dynasty, it's more of a mini dynasty, but that's besides the point. They jump-started a mini dynasty and brought in franchise cornerstones and guys that would set NFL records. Compared to this is, we don't know what they're going to do with their first-round picks, obviously, and it's more than likely that these picks are going to be late-round picks. So they could trade it for another player. We're just going to have to wait and see. But it's more likely that they will never find another Micah Parsons in the first round than find a Kenny Clark in free agency. So ultimately, the Cowboys panicked, and Jerry let his ego get in the way for this one. So ultimately, I do feel like this was an epic fail for the Cowboys on this entire situation as a whole. Not just like, oh yeah, he's a little bit disgruntled, we'll figure it out. And we'll figure it out later down the line, just play on your franchise tag. Now this is an epic fail of massive proportions. And Micah got paid. He got paid what he deserved. Obviously, he's on the 5th year of his rookie deal this year. But next year, this contract will kick in. It's a 4-year, $188 million contract extension with $136 million guaranteed, making him the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. So that's averaging like $47 million on a yearly basis. So at the end of the day, obviously Cowboys fans are not going to be happy, but as long as Mike is happy, he got the ending that he kind of deserved out of all this, and he kind of stuck it to the Cowboys as well, making them settle for a below-average defensive tackle, and kind of lowering how much this defense is actually worth, and lowering kind of how well this team will do during the regular season. So, yeah, speaking on that, let's just jump right into that now that we're done with the Micah Parsons trade stuff. So we're going to go over the NFC East and AFC East record predictions. We're going to start off with your Super Bowl reigning champions, the Philadelphia Eagles. So the Eagles, it's always hard for me to gauge what they're going to do because I'm going to be biased either way. I'm just going to put it out there. I will try to be unbiased when it comes to a lot of different things. But when it comes to predicting how well the Eagles will do, it's going to be hard for me to not be biased. So currently I have a ceiling for them at 14-3. Why? If everything goes right, they can beat playoff contending teams, and that's if things are clicking on all cylinders. I have them losing to teams like the Buccaneers, who they normally lose to down in Tampa. That's okay. I have them losing to like the Commanders. That's okay. And I have them losing to like the Cowboys in Dallas. So these are places that they normally lose. And some big-time matchups like the Lions, they play at home. The Rams, they play at home. The Broncos, they play at home. Yes, they do play the Chiefs in Arrowhead, but that's the Chiefs coming back from Brazil. Obviously, they play the Chargers in SoFi, but that's the Chargers this Chargers team, I believe the Eagles are almost head and shoulders above. They play the Bills in Buffalo. That's going to be difficult, but I can still easily see Jalen Hurts finding a way to win against this Buffalo defense that is not overly that great either. Ultimately, I believe they can string some wins together, and as long as they go on streaks, because they have a stretch here which could be pretty good. They have Broncos, Giants, Vikings, Giants. That could be a 4-game winning streak if they play their cards right. They got a couple rough stretches. They got a stretch where it's Packers, Lions, Cowboys, Bears, Chargers. And ultimately, it will come down to whether the Eagles find a way to win compared to these other teams. And I believe that Jalen Hurts, Nick Sirianni, Saquon, A.J. Brown, you name it, any of the Eagles players could step up at any day of the week. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy, and it doesn't mean they're not going to be closer to their floor. I have their floor at 11-6, and that's if everything goes wrong. If they start to implode at the end of the season like they did in the 2023 season. But I don't see that happening, not with this team. This team is coming with a different mentality than other Eagles teams I've seen in the past have come to with the season. They are coming unproven, yes, but they still have the pieces. They still have the best player in the NFL, voted on by other NFL players, that being Saquon Barkley. And they still have an arguably, top 5 quarterback, top 2 wide receiver duo, and top 2 offensive line, and possibly now 1 since the Lions have lost their starting center. On defense, Vic Fangio, you can never go wrong with Vic Fangio. Yes, teams will start to figure it out a little bit, but he will always lock down and keep his guys in check, have them not overplay their hands. So overall, as long as all things fire on all cylinders, I could easily see this team going closer to their ceiling of 14-3, maybe somewhere around of 13-4. But overall, if things do start to click and they go on streaks and start beating good teams, the sky's the limit for the Super Bowl champs. And maybe we'll just crawl back closer to a back-to-back Super Bowl win. Next up, we have the Washington Commanders. So, the Commanders, coming off a pretty surprising season. Yes, Jaden Daniels, Offensive Rookie of the Year. Obviously, he well-deserved. Took his team to the NFC Championship. Do I see them doing that again? No. I see them being the Texans of last year, taking a step back, still being competitive, especially against playoff contenders, but ultimately teams finding flaws and ways to disrupt their offense. I do not trust their defense at all, and I do not, if you can't trust your defense, and you're only relying on your offense to put up points, you're going to end up like the Bengals of last year. Again, offensive line has taken a step forward. Yes, they brought in Debo. Yes, they brought back Zach Ertz. But this entire roster is the oldest roster in all of football by average. So that is slightly concerning that if somebody goes down, and obviously the older you are, the easier that it is to go down with an injury, the more screwed this team is, because depth behind these guys is pretty thin. They are trading away guys. That's how thin they are at depth. So overall, I do feel like the Commanders will have a ceiling of 10-7 if everything goes right. They play a lot more playoff contending teams than they did last year, and I do have them getting upset by a couple teams that sit down and figure out their system. Obviously, I have them splitting with the Eagles. I have them splitting with the Cowboys, obviously sweeping the Giants. But I do feel like that if there's a year for the Commanders to take a step back, it's going to be this year. And I also have their floor at 7-10. And that's if everything goes wrong, if they can't find a ways to win against playoff teams outside of their division, like the Broncos, Lions, Chiefs, Chargers, Bears, Falcons, Packers, teams like that who are out there looking to fight for a playoff spot. So, yes, Do I feel like they're going to be closer to their floor? No, I feel like they're going to be closer to 10-7. But it wouldn't surprise me if Jaden Daniels struggles a little bit this year, and if some other pieces get injured because of how old their roster is. So, yes, Commanders fans, you guys will be in for another competitive season, but it doesn't mean you guys will be going to the NFC Championship again this year. All right, next up is the Dallas Cowgirls. Now, Dallas, I would have had you guys ranked higher. And we just did 10 minutes of talking about you guys, and I don't like talking about you guys any longer than 1 minute. So let's keep this brief, shall we? All right, Dallas Cowgirls have their ceiling at 9-8. Why? They play a lot of playoff contending teams outside of their own division. Obviously, they play the Eagles twice. I probably have them splitting. They play the Commanders twice. I have them probably splitting. So that's already putting them at 2-2. If they sweep the Giants, they're already at 4-2. Where do they go wrong? They play teams like the Lions, teams like the Chiefs, teams like the Vikings, teams like the Chargers, teams like the Cardinals, who they've even struggled with in the past. So, and there's even a stretch here where from November, let's say November 3rd, because they've struggled historically against the Cardinals, and Kyler Murray is historically great in Dallas when he plays. There's a stretch here that isn't exactly that easy to end out the season. They play even earlier. Let's go even earlier. Commanders, Broncos, Cardinals, Raiders, Eagles, Chiefs, Lions, Vikings, Chargers, Commanders. And obviously they have one last game against the Giants. If this team is not up to snuff, and since they don't have Micah, I am slightly concerned that they will be closer to their floor of 7-10 that I have them set at. Yes, they will most likely find a way to win maybe one or two of those games, but I do feel like, especially without production on the defensive line, they are going to suffer big time. Yes, they just signed DaRon Bland to a 4-year, $92 million contract extension. Yes, they have Trevon Diggs. Who else do they? Can you guys, seriously, if you guys know anything about football, can you name me any defensive starters besides Kenny Clark, we just went over him, but on this defense, besides the three that I've already named? I'll give you 5 seconds. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you said anybody like DeMarcus Lawrence, you're wrong because he's moved on. And I don't know anybody else on this Dallas defense, if you want me to be honest. There's nobody there that wows me. And it's going to be concerning for this Dallas team, especially if they're going up against teams like the Eagles who can run the ball. If they go up against teams like Commanders who can run the ball with their quarterback and somewhat with their running back as well. It's concerning if they go up against teams like the Lions who can run the ball, teams like the Broncos who I believe will run the ball better, teams like the Packers who can run the ball, teams like the Jets who can run the ball. So overall, this Dallas team, I fear, will be closer to their floor of 7-10 and will get diced up by these teams that are actually playoff contenders. So, yes. Cowboys fans, it's going to be a long season for you guys. You guys might just want to go and check in on your... I can't even say you guys can go and check in on the Texas Longhorns because they lost to Ohio State 14-7, and Arch Manning didn't look that good. So, overall, I do feel like... Dallas is going to be closer to their floor of 7-10, and ultimately it will end up probably blowing up in their face, and we'll just have to wait until the offseason to see what Jerry does with those new first-round picks. Lastly, let's go over the Giants. I don't expect much out of the Giants. Unfortunately, I do feel like Daboll will get fired, although none of this is his fault. They just have a rough schedule, dude. And I've even said that they've had the worst schedule at home. They might not win a single game at home this season. I mean, looking at who they have at home, they have the Chiefs at home, Chargers at home, Eagles at home. They have the 49ers at home, the Packers at home, Commanders at home, Vikings at home, Cowboys at home. They could lose all those games and go like 0-6, 0-7. So what do I have their ceiling? If everything goes right and Russell Wilson proves to be an actual NFL caliber starter still, and even if Jackson Dart has to come in, take the reins, and he does well, I have their ceiling set at 6-11, and that's if everything goes right and they can pull off a couple upset wins. If everything goes wrong, I have their floor at 3-14, and that's if even Jackson Dart coming in can't save them, and they end up finishing out the season with Jameis Winston as their starter. So, yes. Obviously, they play worse teams like the Saints, and they play teams that could be on their caliber, like the Bears, though I do feel like the Bears will be better. So, yes, it wouldn't surprise me if this Giants team comes out swinging and upsets a couple of teams, but ultimately, these guys will most likely get steamrolled over by the rest of the league. Alright, so looking at the AFC East, we are going to go to, obviously, most people have what I have, but we're just going to go over this. All right, Buffalo Bills. The Bills, just on Hard Knocks, made them more of, I guess, a relatable, lovable team. I don't know, they have the reigning MVP in Josh Allen. I wouldn't be surprised if we see another MVP caliber season out of him. Obviously, start off the season rough. They start out Sunday Night Football against the Ravens, though it is up in Buffalo. The weather won't really play a factor too much because we are not in the December, January months. They play plenty of playoff caliber teams outside of their own division. Ravens, maybe Falcons, Buccaneers, Steelers, Bengals, Texans, Eagles. So they play difficult teams, but their schedule isn't that bad, especially if they can win. If they sweep their own division, they already start off 6-0. So I feel like they're going to sweep most of the teams and might split with a team like the Patriots and end up going 5-1 against their own division. And I do believe that they will win against teams like the Ravens, Bengals, Buccaneers, Texans, Chiefs, maybe. But if everything goes right, I have them with a ceiling of 12-5. Why? There are a couple different stretches where they do deal with some difficult teams. One of the stretches, Chiefs, Dolphins, Buccaneers, Texans, Steelers, Bengals. That's going to be a rough stretch. That stretch is going to show us, is this team ready for the Super Bowl? Because at that point, by November, we should know who this team is, what their identity is. I do feel like Josh Allen is ready to take that next step and most likely could take his team to the Super Bowl. That's to be determined, but yes, I do feel like Josh Allen can take that next step into playing in the Super Bowl. I have their floor at 10-7. Why? That is just if everything goes wrong and they can't find ways to win against these playoff teams. A lot of times they're playing these playoff teams at home. They play the Chiefs at home. They play the Buccaneers at home. They play the Bengals at home. They play the Ravens at home. So a lot of times they're hosting these big-time matchups. And I do feel like that they are more likely to hit their ceiling because of this. And especially late in the season, once we start to get into November, December, it's going to get cold. I mean, they play the Eagles on December 28th. So who knows if it's going to be snowing at that point, how cold it's going to be at that point. So it's going to have to be a wait-and-see kind of thing, especially for this Bills team when it gets late. So if they can string some wins together early, I feel like they'll get themselves a good cushion, especially going into the stretch against playoff caliber teams. All right, over to the New England Patriots, one of the more fascinating teams. They picked up Stephon Diggs. They picked up Milton Williams. They revamped this entire defense, especially under Mike Vrabel. And I do feel like this team will be closer to a contender, at least playoff contender, at this point. So, yes, I have the Patriots ceiling at 10-7. Why? They play they have a couple stretches where they play easy teams, and I believe they can out physical some of these teams. They have a stretch here in October, late October, where they play Saints, Titans, Browns. That's an easy 3-game win streak, and on top of them, I feel like they can at least split with the Bills, at least sweep the Dolphins, and maybe split with the Jets, putting them at 4-2. On top of that 3-game winning streak, if they can get that, that would put them at 7-2. So they would just need to find ways to win against teams like the Bengals, they've proven to do that against in the past. Be competitive against teams like the Falcons, and beat teams like the Giants. So if the Patriots bring their physicality to the table and outmuscle some of these teams, especially if they are worse than them, then I do feel like the Patriots will hit their ceiling of 10-7. I have their floor set at 7-10, and that's if everything goes wrong. If the Jets are more competitive than I think that they will be, and if the Bills just absolutely steamroll as well. The Patriots still play difficult teams like the Buccaneers, Bengals, and Ravens, and Steelers as well. So I do feel like they will struggle at times. Drake May, still a young quarterback, still having to prove himself. Now he does have a veteran in Stephon Diggs, so that does help him elevate his game. But I want to see more dominant wide receiver play from the Patriots, and I want to see them bring in a top-tier running back for Drake May to hand the ball off to take some of the stress off of him. So, Patriots fans, I do feel like you guys will go closer to your ceiling. You guys will definitely contend for a playoff, at least a wild card spot. But, Patriots, you guys, as long as you guys prove yourself, especially under Mike Vrabel in year one, you guys will be fine. And it will just be fun to see what you guys can do over the next year or two. All right, we're up with the New York Jets, or New Jersey Jets, however you want to call them. They start off pretty difficult, if you want me to be honest. They start off with a 3-game stretch against the Steelers, Bills, Buccaneers. I don't totally believe in Justin Fields, but I do believe in the running game, and I do believe in Aaron Glenn getting this defense to come together and play as one unit. He proved it in Detroit, especially last year with all those injuries, and coming in now, I feel like he is the guy to set the culture for the Jets. Yes, but that doesn't mean the Jets play a lot of easy teams. They play a lot of playoff caliber teams outside of their division. We already mentioned Steelers, Buccaneers. They play the Cowboys, Broncos, Bengals. They play the Ravens, Falcons, Jaguars. So outside of their own division, they don't exactly have a cakewalk. And so that's why I have their ceiling at 10-7 as well. I do feel like they will find ways to win. That is what I think Aaron Glenn brings to the table as a head coach. And he expects the highest out of all of his players. But I have their floor at 6-11, and I feel like they might be closer to that floor. Why? I'm not totally sold on Justin Fields. I want to see a full year of him as a starter and him looking like a proficient passer. He doesn't have to pass for like 3,000 plus yards. He just has to be proficient in the pass game and allow the run game to open up the play-action game to get Garrett Wilson open downfield. There are teams that I think that they can upset, like the Bengals, like the Falcons, like the Jaguars. There are definitely teams on here that I feel like they could easily beat. But there are other teams like the Steelers, like the Buccaneers, like the Bills, like the Cowboys, like the Ravens, who they are going to struggle against. And they also have to win within their own division. They have to prove themselves early so the rest of their division knows that they are there. So for the Jets, I do feel like they will be closer to their floor of 6-11. But don't color me shocked if they end up being closer to that ceiling of 10-7. All right. Lastly, we have the Miami Dolphins. And Miami it's going to be a long year for you guys. I think Mike McDaniels will be one of the first coaches fired this regular season. That's one of my predictions already. So mark that. Mike McDaniels ahead of Brian Daboll to get fired for this NFL season. Or Kevin Stefanski as well. They don't exactly start off that difficult. They have the Colts as their first game. They could easily win that. Their division's going to be rough. It's going to be rough because the Jets believe that they could be playing for a playoff spot. So do the Patriots, and the Bills are looking to get to the Super Bowl. Realistically, I have them at best getting swept by the Bills, at least splitting with the Patriots, and at least splitting with the Jets. And that's at best. At worst, they could get swept by all three, putting them already at an 0-6 hole to dig out of. But outside of their own division, they play teams like the Chargers, like the Panthers, like the Falcons, like the Ravens, like the Commanders, Steelers, Bengals, Buccaneers. All these teams will be competing for a playoff spot. And I do feel like some of these teams will bring it against the Dolphins, and ultimately this defense isn't that great. They're going to have to rely on their offense, and especially the connection between Tua and Tyreek, which could be already fractured as we know it. We already know that there's been some offseason drama. They've yet to really address it. They've brushed past it at this point, so we're going to see how well that connection still exists. Devon Achane hasn't had that great of a season since 2022, and I want to see him take a step forward. I would love to see him become an explosive playmaker out of the backfield and open up the defense and open up the offense for Tua to do play action down the field for Tyreek or Jalen Waddle. If this year is a failure, if these guys end up going the ceiling that I have them, which is 6-11, I do feel like that the Tua Tyreek and the Tyreek Miami experience will be a failure as a whole, and we will see some changes here in the Dolphins organization. And if Tua can stay healthy, he might not be going anywhere, but some of his supporting cast will definitely be shipped off for compensation. So overall, I have their floor at 4-13. I wouldn't be shocked if they go closer to their ceiling of 6-11, but I feel like this is the end of the Tua Tyreek experience down in Miami, and Mike McDaniels will be out of a head coaching job by the end of the regular season. So if everything is to end today, and we're going off all the ceilings from all the teams, in the NFC East, I would have the Eagles finishing first at 14-3, Commanders at second with 10-7, Cowboys in third with 9-8, Giants in fourth with 6-11. In the AFC, I would have the Bills finishing in first with 12-15. The Patriots finishing in second with 10-7, Jets finishing in third with 10-7, and Dolphins finishing in fourth with 6-11. So, give me y'all's thoughts down below, how y'all thought I did, especially even with all the divisions that we've done over the past 4 weeks, and just let me know what you guys think and how realistic they are. All right, so let's get into some of my award predictions and my Super Bowl prediction. Actually, I'll do my Super Bowl prediction. Actually, screw it. We'll do that later. Let's do this week's picks. So, if you all remember, last season, I went 199-85 on my picks last season for who was going to win and who was going to lose during the week. So, we are looking to get 200 or better this season. And to do that, we are going to have to lock in now, ladies and gentlemen. We are bringing back our weekly predictions, and we are going to start off with the Eagles versus the Cowboys. Now, this is going to be an interesting matchup. The Eagles, coming off, obviously, a Super Bowl win, banner night. They're juiced, they're energized, they're ready to go. Landon Dickerson will be back for the game. A.J. Brown don't have to worry about the hamstring. He said he'd be back. Um, Dallas, their offense, I'm concerned about their running game. They have Javonte Williams and Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb. Probably will be a good connection at first, and we might see George Pickens come in late, especially once the Eagles defense will bracket CD off with a safety and a corner covering him at all times. This defense is gonna make Dallas fight for every single inch, and this offensive line for Dallas doesn't give me any sort of confidence either. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see Dak Prescott be put on the ground 5 times, maybe a few sacks by some of this defense. Maybe Jalen Carter 2 sacks, Jordan Davis a half a sack, Nolan Smith 2 sacks, and maybe Jalen Hunt half a sack. But I feel like this offensive line for Dallas plus this defensive line gives me major pause when it comes to who's going to win. And on top of that, it's already being reported that Trayvon Diggs could be out of this game with an injury for the Cowboys, meaning that secondary is going to have to rely on Daron Bland to cover A.J. Brown. Who's covering Devontae Smith? I have no clue. I couldn't name you who's covering Devontae Smith. But or who's covering Jahan Dotson or John Mechie or Darius Cooper if you get some starting roles. And I don't know who their linebackers are to stop Saquon. And that was a major problem that they had last season, especially when they played the Eagles at home. So I believe that your Philadelphia Eagles will get this win here at banner dropping night. Obviously, they are the favorites to win at -7.5. I would definitely take that if you were a sports bettor. I would take that -7.5 pretty easily, and I like the Eagles to cover that. So, your Philadelphia Eagles will be starting out 1-0 on the season. Sorry, Cowgirls. Next up, we have the Brazil match between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Los Angeles Chargers. I'm just going to let you know anything can happen down in Brazil. Having played down there last season is kind of crazy. So, I like the Chiefs in this matchup. Here's why. Chargers, yes, they can out-physical you any day of the week. But down in Brazil, especially on those fields, you don't get much traction. So you want something a little bit more high-flying than something that's a little bit more ground and pound. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Chiefs come out, they pound the rock with Isaiah Pacheco, they do short passes to Travis Kelce, get him involved early, and then try to find Xavier Worthy deep on play action passes. So overall, I do feel like the Chiefs are more likely to win this matchup. And obviously they have the history against the Chargers where they just find ways to win, no matter who's the quarterback of the Chargers or who's the head coach of the Chargers. Next up, we have an interesting matchup. We have Buccaneers-Falcons. Now, until the Falcons can show me that Michael Penix can win games consistently and that his offensive weapons can show up when needed, I'm going to have to go with the Buccaneers. Tampa Bay, they have a pretty nasty passing attack with their three-headed monster of Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Emeka Mbuka. Although I think Chris Godwin might be out the first couple of weeks, still having Mike Edwards and Emeka Mbuka means a lot. Bucky Irving, I feel like, will continue to take steps forward to becoming a top 10 running back, and he will end the year in the top 10 conversation if he's not already in it. I do feel like the only thing questionable about this Buccaneers defense is their corners. I would like to see how well they play, especially against Drake London and Darnell Mooney, but we will just have to wait and see with that. And again, same thing for the Falcons. The most questionable thing for me is not the secondary as a whole, but this cornerback play. Will they be able to stop Mike Evans and Emeka Mbuka? And if they can't, will this defense be able to adjust to stop the pass? So I do have Baker lighting up the Falcons in Atlanta. Actually, let me do. I forgot. I always do score predictions. I have the Eagles winning 34-14. The Chiefs winning probably closer to like 28-17, and the Buccaneers I have winning 38-20. Next up, we have Bengals Browns. Give me the Bengals all day. Although they are 0-1 in opening day. I 0-1 for like the past 3-4 years. I feel like if there's a year that they are to get back on track, it has to be this year, and it has to be against the Browns. Unfortunately, there is probably a sneaky chance that the Browns come out and they're just firing on all cylinders underneath Joe Flacco, and they just carve up this Bengals defense. So I have this being a closer match. I have this match as 21-17 Bengals, but I wouldn't be shocked if the Browns come out of this matchup with the upset win. Next up, we have Dolphins Colts. I definitely have the Dolphins winning this. This Colts secondary is fairly questionable. This Colts defense as a whole is this Colts team, let's go with that, is very questionable as a whole. And although I think this offense will look good against this Miami defense, I don't think the Colts defense will be able to hold up in any way possible. I think Tua has a solid game, and him and Tyreek find this connection a little bit early. Devon Achane takes a step forward and trying to propel himself into the upper echelon of running backs in the NFL. I don't think the Colts look bad at all. I think the Colts lose probably so I think the Dolphins win 28-24. The Colts offense doesn't look too bad underneath Daniel Jones, and they could be a contender or at least a problem throughout the season. But obviously, it's made obvious that Daniel Jones won't be their franchise guy from here on out. Next up, you have the Raiders versus the Patriots. Now, I'm going to go with the Patriots. Here's why. We know what you can get out of a Mike Vrabel coach team. That is physicality, good defense. The offense, we'll just have to wait and see, but I trust that Drake May will find Stephon Diggs early and often. I want to see how well this Raiders offense functions under Pete Carroll. Whether they'll get Geno in a rhythm early passing and then start running the ball with Ashton Jeanty, or run the ball with Ashton Jeanty early and then get Geno in a rhythm. Obviously, I feel like this Patriots defensive line will find a way to shut down Ashton Jeanty eventually, but it might take them a little while. So I have this Patriots team beating this Raiders team 27-24 on a last-second field goal as time expires. We got Cardinals Saints. Give me the Cardinals. Now, again, I wouldn't be shocked if somehow the Cardinals find a way to choke this game away, although the Saints will be the worst team in the NFL. I do feel like Kyler, this has to be the year. This has to be the year that he finds rhythm. This has to be the year that he takes the Cardinals to at least the playoffs and at least proves himself. They already brought in a star-studded defense with Josh Sweat, Calais Campbell. So now it is Kyler's time to prove that he can do more than play Call of Duty. Ultimately, I do feel like that this will be a win for the Cardinals, a pretty dominant win. I feel like they will win closer to like 27-7, and ultimately Kyler will find rhythm early, and we'll just have to wait and see how this entire offense shapes up as a whole. Oh, and Saints, I'm not going to talk about you because you guys suck. Anyway, Steelers Jets, give me the Steelers. I think the Steelers defense finds a way to beat Justin Fields, especially with Mike Tomlin at the helm. He already knows how Justin Fields likes to play, so I feel like he will find a way to clamp down on Justin Fields, forcing him to pass, and obviously that's not his strong suit. If I'm the Jets, you have to find a way to get after Aaron early and often, get him on the ground, and look to find ways to open up the read option game, get Justin Fields running it a bit, and get Breece Hall running it a bit as well. So, yes, I do have the Steelers winning it in a close matchup here. I have them winning 24-14. Next up, we have Commanders-Giants. Give me Commanders all day, every day, by probably like a mile. Though these teams might play closer than we think because of their history and how well they play each other, except for last year. I do feel like the Commanders will come out on top. It probably won't be that close. I feel like it'll be closer to like 31-20. Yes, 31-20. I do feel like the Commanders will find a way to win. And Jaden Daniels looks a little bit shaky. We start to question whether he'll go into a slump or not. But ultimately, he'll find a way to win the game. And that's all that matters at the end of the day. Giants, I feel like Russell Wilson looks good. Him and Malik Neighbors get into a rhythm early. And Tyrone Tracy gets the ball early and often, so they don't have to run down Russ's arm early in the season. All right, Panthers, Jaguars. Money is on the Jaguars. I'm going to take the Panthers. Here's why. Not that the Jaguars are good, but they're coming out with a first-time head coach, and they have to find their rhythm. They don't have a good running back. I don't believe Travis Etienne will be an amazing running back for them. He is probably like 20 or below in running backs in the NFL, or starting running backs in the NFL. And I feel like Bryce Young will find a way to win. Yes, this Jaguars defense will clamp down on Bryce Young and the passing offense, but I feel like as long as you get Chuba Hubbard going and get him the rock early, so you can take pressure off of Bryce Young and allow him to find rhythm with Terrell McMillan, Terrell McMillan early and often, I feel like this Panthers team can, upset, the Jaguars team, and ultimately the Panthers will come on top, closer to like 28-17. And I'll make my prediction that Terrell McMillan will dominate Travis Hunter for 2 deep passing touchdowns during the game. That will be my bold prediction for this week. Broncos Titans. Sorry, Cam Ward, but you guys got thrown arguably the worst game to start out with. That being the Denver Broncos. This team has Super Bowl aspirations, and as long as Bo Nix can find his wide receivers, especially Courtland Sutton, early and often, and they can run the rock a little bit, I'm not too concerned about this team at all. And I would like to see how well these new defensive pieces, Dre Greenlaw and Talah Hufanga, play in this defense. But I'm not too concerned about this Sean Payton-led team. And as long as Bo Nix continues to take steps forward and find his guys, then the sky's the limits for the Denver Broncos. Titans, sorry. We'll talk more about you guys and how you guys can succeed early here, but next week. But Cam Ward, just don't throw too many interceptions. Maybe throw one, but I have the Broncos probably winning closer to like 45-10. Yeah, 45-10. Let's see. Niners, Seahawks. Give me the Niners. I wouldn't be too surprised if the Niners come out swinging. Though they only have Ricky Pearsall and George Kittle and CMC and Juwan Jennings. So actually, no, they have a couple different pieces. I'm overstating. But I want to see how well this defense can play under Kyle Shanahan and what's-his-face, the head coach that was just at the Jets last year. Robert Saleh. I want to see how well that entire unit looks as a whole. And then I want to see how well Brock Purdy can get himself in a rhythm with his playmakers. I want to see how well CMC can hold up and how many touches they give him, whether it's 20 or less or 20 and more. I do feel like they won't really give CMC too many touches because they want to save his legs for later in the season. So, yeah, 49ers win in a close battle, probably 24-17 over the Seahawks. Sam Darnold looks good, but they just can't find a way to win, and they will come back next week with a vengeance. But my prediction for this one is Sam Darnold and Jackson Smith-Njigba look like a really good duo throughout this entire game, and Jackson Smith-Njigba goes for over like 100 yards and like a touchdown. So, yes, Seahawks fans, you guys might not get the win, but you guys look better than everybody possibly predicted. We have Lions-Packers. I'm going to put my money on the Lions. They've constantly had the edge on the Packers here, although the Packers are a favorite at minus 135. I'm going to take the Lions here. It just feels like the more sensible pick. Dan Campbell has had Matt LaFleur's number, especially over the past 2 seasons. And although the Packers got Micah and all, I still feel like this offensive line of the Lions, although there are a couple different questions, will lock down, and we will get fireworks between Penei Sewell and Micah Parsons. On the Detroit defensive side, I do feel like Kirby Joseph probably comes away with 1 interception against Jordan Love, and Jordan Love continues to look a little bit shaky, but Matthew Golden looks good, and Josh Jacobs looks like he could go for over 2,000 yards like Saquon last season. This, obviously, we mentioned briefly the Lions offense, but I do feel like Jared Goff will look solid. They'll rely heavily on Gibbs and Montgomery when needed, and they get Amon-Ra involved early, and Jameson Williams open down the field on play-action passes. So, give me the Lions winning a close battle. Probably, we're going to go 31-28. Next up, we have the Texans-Rams. If Matthew Stafford is healthy, give me the Rams all day. This Rams defensive line is going to eat this Texans offensive line alive. And ultimately, they're going to get after C.J. Stroud, make him uncomfortable, and he's going to throw some incompletions and sketchy passes that could be picked off. So I do feel like this Rams defensive line will be the X factor during this game, and they will eat C.J. Stroud alive, possibly going for like 6 or 7 sacks in the game. Who knows? But yes, this Rams offense, I feel like will get Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua early and often, and to get some pressure off of Matthew Stafford's arm, they're going to hand off the ball to Kyren Williams as much as they can. I wouldn't be surprised if we see more rushes and passes this game, but I had the Rams winning pretty handily, 24-13. Next up, we have arguably one of my favorite games this weekend coming up. We have the Buffalo Bills hosting the Baltimore Ravens, a matchup of the AFC divisional game from last year. Who do I have? I have Buffalo. It's at Buffalo. Buffalo tends to figure out teams like the Ravens and like the Chiefs during the regular season, so that's not too much of a concern. Though last year the Ravens and Bills did play, and the Ravens absolutely spanked the Bills, I do feel like the Bills will find a way to win, and ultimately somebody else on the Ravens will find a way to choke away this game, and we'll get the continued storyline of can Lamar Jackson win when it matters most. So, yes, Josh Allen is going to look solid, possibly 3 passing touchdowns, maybe 1 interception. And he's going to find a way to pick apart this Ravens secondary, and he's going to take it on the ground himself. But I wouldn't be surprised if he finds Khalil Khalil Shakir and Keon Coleman early and often, and then also gets James Cook involved both in the passing offense and obviously the rushing offense as well. So give me the Bills in a tight matchup, winning 24-21. Finally, we have Monday Night Football. This is going to be an interesting matchup, but give me... this one's rough because we don't know what we have in J.J. McCarthy, and we're not sure if the Bears' offense is going to click early. So, here's what you're going to do. Give me the Chicago Bears beating the Minnesota Vikings in Soldier Field. I feel like Caleb Williams looks like a top-tier quarterback in the league, and he finds DJ Moore down the field a lot. Obviously, this Vikings defense was a top-tier unit this past 2 years. I want to see if this carries over to this year, and I want to see what J.J. McCarthy has. Until I see what J.J. McCarthy can do, I will continue to bet against the Vikings. That's just how I'm going to have to do it. Until he's a proven guy, I'm not going to fully believe in what he can do. So I'm going to take the Bears getting the upset and beating the Vikings on Monday Night Football. So, what do you guys think about that? Those are my predictions. If you guys want to bet money on that, look at how well I did last year. It wouldn't be too bad of an idea. Let's go back to... so, yeah. If you guys put money on the games that I predict. Let's see. You guys have a 43% chance of winning, which is more than you could probably get elsewhere. That's almost a 50% chance that if you guys pick a game that I say who's going to win, you guys will most likely win big. So, take it from there. If you guys really do believe in me, let me know how you guys did when you guys bet. Lastly, we got to get into some of my predictions. So, let's get into some of the lesser awards that they hand out at the end of the season. Coach of the Year. I think Mike Vrabel will get that, especially for what he does if he can get the Patriots to the playoffs. Comeback Player of the Year. CMC, that's going to be easy, especially if he runs for over 1,000 yards. It's easily going to be the guy that had Laffy Taffy for Achilles and then comes back and looks solid. Defensive Rookie of the Year. Tossed up between Mason Graham and the guy that I picked, Travis Hunter. I do feel like he will get a couple picks and he will make a couple of plays. And ultimately, I feel like those that make the picks for awards will feel a little bit sorry for him because he has to play offense and defense. But yes, Travis Hunter looks like a solid corner and ultimately wins Defensive Rookie of the Year. Offensive Rookie of the Year. I thought about Cam Ward. At the end of the day, I don't think that his team around him is good enough for him to get the Offensive Rookie of the Year. I thought about Terrell McMillan. I thought that he's now wide receiver 1. Adam Thielen isn't down in Carolina anymore. He is going to get the bulk of the targets from Bryce Young if he's open. I thought about, who was it? Where was it? Sorry. If you're still listening to this episode, I bet that you don't even care that I have to search for this. Marion Hampton, I thought could have been a chance. Or even Travis Hunter for Offensive Rookie of the Year. Or, who I had as my runner-up, was Matthew Golden. I think Matthew Golden will do really well up in Cheeseland. I think the Packers will utilize him well. But I don't think that he will have better numbers than this guy that I have as the Offensive Rookie of the Year, that being Ashton Jeanty. I feel like Ashton Jeanty will come out on top with that, especially if Pete Carroll uses a dominant run game like he has in the past. So, yes, I believe Ashton Jeanty comes out, wins Offensive Rookie of the Year with solid numbers, rushes for over 1,000 yards, probably closer to 1,200 if you want me to be honest. But yes, I do feel like Ashton Jeanty wins Offensive Rookie of the Year. So who am I picking for the Offensive Player of the Year and Defensive Player of the Year? All right, so these two are on the same team. Let's get that out there right now. So once I tell you one, you can start guessing on the other. Let me go with Defensive Player of the Year. This one's going to be easy. This guy I had predicted to win Defensive Player of the Year last year, but he unfortunately got injured very early on in the season, and he still held on to like the sack. Like he was the sack leader for like 3 to 4 weeks, even after he got injured. That being the Lions, Aiden Hutchinson. Aiden Hutchinson, I feel like, will take the step. Hopefully, before he takes a step forward, I feel like he will produce at a high level, but I just hope that he's fully healthy. If he's fully healthy, a fully healthy Aiden Hutchinson can be dangerous, and I can see him getting after the quarterback a lot, especially against bad teams. Hutch, to me, will ultimately come out swinging, and I do feel like by like week 12, week 13, week 14, he will lock down the Defensive Player of the Year award. On Offensive Player of the Year, I already told you he's on the same team. That would be wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown. Amon-Ra St. Brown, I do feel like, will have that season that will put him up in the talks with Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, A.J. Brown. I feel like he will have a season so good that it will propel him in front of CeeDee Lamb, sorry. And then ultimately he'll come away with the Offensive Player of the Year. He'll make a couple highlight reel plays, and it will ultimately be some of the best plays that you will have seen. The runner-up probably for this, I put my money on A.J. Brown. I believe A.J. Brown will be coming out and having a 1,500-yard receiving season, around like 12 to 13 receiving touchdowns. I feel like Amon-Ra might have more than that, or around the same. He'll just make more highlight reel plays, but I feel like both gentlemen will produce pretty well. My Defensive Player of the Year runner-up, I probably would have Jalen Carter. I'd have Jalen Carter running up. Yes, I know I'm biased. I'm an Eagles fan. I understand. But these guys are due. Jalen Carter is due. A.J. Brown is due. So, yes, I do feel like these two are the runner-ups if you're going to place your bets on somebody. All right, so most importantly, who's the MVP? Now, I've been stuck between two guys. And no, I didn't guess Josh Allen or Lamar. I want to go away from those two for a little while, even if my prediction's wrong. My runner-up is Joe Burrow. I feel like Joe Burrow will have a good enough season, stats-wise, that he will come out on top of the passing categories. Where I think he will fail is that he will barely get into the playoffs, and people will recognize that he cannot propel his team above what his defense is doing. So that's why he will be your your runner-up. Who is your MVP then? I know him well. You know him well. We all know MVP is a quarterback award at this point. It is Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts. Why? I think he passes for nearly 3,200 passing yards. He has nearly 40 to 45 total touchdowns. He rushes for close to between 500 and 500 and 800 rushing yards. I ultimately feel like he gets helped by a dominant performance by A.J. Brown, a pretty stellar performance by Saquon Barkley, and I feel like this offense just tears it up. I feel like this offense comes out and dominates, and I feel like that will propel Jalen Hurts to his first MVP award, and that will shut up people saying that he is not on the same level as Mahomes, Allen, and Lamar. Then we might actually be talking of he's ahead of Burrow, and he might be part of the Big Four. So that is my bold prediction that Jalen Hurts will win MVP by the end of the season based off of how well he plays throughout the season. So who's my Super Bowl prediction? Way too early Super Bowl to predict. Obviously, we will go back over this by the wild card weekend, but out of the AFC, I have your Baltimore Ravens coming out. I just feel like they are the better team. I feel like they will find a way to win eventually. Maybe not immediately, and we might see that especially against the Bills this weekend. But I do believe Lamar will find a way to win in the AFC, especially against a weakened Chiefs team and a no-defense Bengals team. It will be the Bills versus the Ravens in the AFC Championship, and it will come down to where it's being played. If it's being played in Baltimore, I give the Ravens the edge. If it's being played in Buffalo, I give the Bills the edge. And I just feel like the Ravens will have such an amazing season off of this top-tier defense and pretty explosive offense that Lamar will punch his ticket to the Super Bowl. Who do I have coming out of the NFC? This is tough. I have two teams. The runner-up is your Detroit Lions. Why? They will continue to be contenders, but I just don't believe Jared Goff has the it factor that it will take to win a championship game to even get his team to the Super Bowl. So who do I have beating the Detroit Lions? I have your Philadelphia Eagles getting to the Super Bowl against the Baltimore Ravens. This is the matchup, not that I've been wanting for years, but this is a matchup that I want this year. I want to see two running quarterbacks go at it, and I want to see two top-tier defenses in the Super Bowl. I feel like this would be fireworks for the entire league, though the league will probably root for the Ravens. I will root for the Eagles, obviously, and I will hope for the Eagles back-to-back. So that has been this episode of the Flying with the Flock podcast. We have finally made it, ladies and gentlemen. We are here at week 1. And tomorrow night, the Eagles will play the Dallas Cowboys. So, without further ado, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And remember, go Birds.